There's something deeply wrong with the way most people have been taught to manifest. Something subtle, but powerful enough to keep entire generations stuck in cycles of waiting, scripting, visualizing, and hoping, only to find that months, even years, pass without the shift they crave. And the strangest part? It's not because manifestation doesn't work. It's because they're doing it too slowly, not by choice, but by design. Because hidden within the popular idea of manifestation is a lie so seductive that it almost sounds like truth. That you must think about your desire long enough, visualize it clearly enough, repeat it consistently enough, and eventually, reality will rearrange itself to bring it to you. It sounds reasonable, logical, even empowering at first glance. But look deeper, and you'll find a dangerous assumption embedded in that framework. One that quietly programs your nervous system with delay, with effort, and most of all, with distance. That assumption is this: what I desire is not here yet. I must do something to get it. And just like that, you've been removed from the quantum truth. Because the moment you define your desire as something separate from now, something that must arrive, appear, unfold, or be earned, you collapse yourself into a timeline where it isn't. You reinforce the illusion of future, of gap, of not yet. And in doing so, you unknowingly vibrate at the frequency of absence. This is why manifestation often feels slow. It's not that reality is resisting you. It's that you are energizing the version of you who's still waiting, who still believes that time and effort are required to bridge the gap between who you are and what you want. But the quantum field doesn't operate on time. It operates on coherence. And coherence doesn't require effort. It requires alignment. The more you try, the more you declare, "This is not yet mine." The more you visualize it as something in the future, the more you train your nervous system to expect its absence in the present. And here's where the deception becomes spiritualized. Because even well-meaning teachings reinforce the delay. Trust divine timing, they say. Be patient with the universe. It's coming. Keep the faith. But in quantum reality, time is not a delivery system. Time is a mirror. It reflects back to you the frequency you are broadcasting now. Not your intentions, not your vision boards, not your journal entries. Only your now signal. And if your now signal is loaded with desire, urgency, or anticipation, then what you collapse into form is more of that energy. More things to desire, more things to anticipate, more reasons to wait. This is the core misalignment. You are not here to chase reality. You are here to collapse it. And collapsing reality is not a future process. It is a present phenomenon. The truth is, manifestation was never meant to be a technique. It was meant to be a remembering, an act of frequency precision, a state of vibrational identity so clear, so consistent, so stable, that the universe has no choice but to mirror it instantly. Because when your inner world becomes identical to the timeline you desire, the field must respond. That's not magic. That's physics. But most people never reach that state. Not because they can't, but because they're caught in the trap of becoming. The endless self-improvement loop. The constant seeking. The quiet belief that they must earn their breakthrough through enough spiritual effort. And every time they sit to manifest with that energy, they activate the timeline where the shift hasn't happened yet. It's the frequency of almost. Almost there. Almost ready. Almost worthy. But the field doesn't respond to almost. It responds to embodiment. And here's the part that most won't tell you, because it dissolves the need for most manifestation content. When you truly understand how the quantum field works, you realize that there is nothing to attract. You're not a magnet pulling things toward you. You're a tuner locking into a frequency that already exists. And once locked in, what matches that frequency must appear, not over time, but in alignment. And alignment happens faster than time. This is why manifestation feels slow when taught incorrectly, and impossibly fast when embodied correctly. Because the shift is not in how long you've been doing the work. It's in how clearly you're broadcasting the reality you say you believe in. Most people are trying to become magnetic, but the truth is you already are. The only question is, what frequency are you stabilizing? If it's lack, you'll get more reasons to need. If it's effort, you'll get more things to push through. If it's embodiment, you'll get instant feedback loops of alignment. And here's the radical realization. You don't need to become more powerful to manifest faster. You just need to stop energizing the version of you who believes it takes time. Time is not the gap between intention and outcome. It's the measure of how long it takes for your vibration to stop contradicting your desire. And once the contradiction ends, reality bends. So the real question is no longer, how do I manifest what I want? The question is, why am I still believing I have to wait? Because once that belief dissolves, the speed increases. Not because you're rushing, but because reality has nothing left to delay against. You're no longer trying to make it happen. You are being the version where it already has, and that is faster than thought. We've been taught to view reality as something external, something outside of us, something that unfolds according to fixed laws, predictable rules, and linear time. But quantum physics, when understood beyond equations and into the fabric of consciousness, reveals something radically different, dark and far more empowering. That reality doesn't unfold, it collapses. And it collapses in direct response to the observer, to you, not the version of you who is thinking, wishing, or hoping, but the one who is broadcasting, right now, a frequency so coherent, so congruent with a particular possibility, that the quantum field has no option but to organize itself around it. This is the quantum shortcut, and it defies everything linear manifestation models try to explain, because it removes the process entirely. It bypasses time, it collapses distance, it turns potential into form, not through effort, but through energetic dominance. The reality you experience is not being built slowly, it is being selected instantly, over and over, based on your vibration. And here's the part that most people don't see. The field doesn't wait for you to get ready. It collapses based on what you observe. And observation in the quantum sense isn't about looking. It's about being. This is why timelines are so fluid. You are not walking through time like a passenger. You are collapsing time like a conductor. Every emotion, every belief, every subtle signal your body emits is collapsing probabilities, infinite ones, into one singular expression, your now. And yet most people continue to engage with reality as if it's rigid, fixed, slow. They say things like, I'm working toward it, or it's coming. But what's actually happening is this. They are observing a version of themselves that doesn't yet have it, and locking it in, day after day, with their focus. You are not waiting for reality to catch up. Reality is waiting for your frequency to stabilize. The moment it does, the shortcut activates, because nothing in the quantum field is truly far. Everything exists as overlapping waveforms, possibilities, and those waveforms are waiting to be collapsed by coherent observation. The cleaner your signal, the faster the collapse. This is not a metaphor. In double-slit experiments, electrons behave differently depending on whether they are observed. When unobserved, they exist in a state of superposition, many potential states at once. But when observed, they choose. They lock into form. That form is influenced not just by measurement, but by expectation. Which means what you expect collapses into what you get, and this is why most people collapse what they fear. Because fear is a powerful observer. It's focused, charged, repetitive. It floods the body with signals that shout to the field, this is my reality. And so, the field agrees. It collapses danger, delay, disappointment. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because it is responding with perfect precision to your vibration. You are not manifesting outcomes. You are manifesting certainty. The field responds not to desire, but to dominance. And whichever emotional frequency is dominant, that is what becomes your world. This is the shortcut, but it requires letting go of the mental frameworks that seek to control it. Because the moment you try to manipulate the field with thought alone, you introduce interference. You split your signal. You say one thing while vibrating another. And the field, ever faithful to frequency, collapses what you are, not what you say. To use this shortcut, you must become the observer who doesn't observe for proof, but who observes from knowing. This is the subtle difference between aligned vision and hopeful projection. Aligned vision feels complete, grounded, inevitable. It doesn't ask when, it doesn't scan for signs, it simply knows. And that knowing creates gravitational collapse. The wave becomes particle, the potential becomes form, the imagined becomes memory. This is what makes quantum manifestation not only faster than traditional method, but timeless. Because the moment you exit the logic of time-based manifestation and enter the space of frequency congruence, the universe ceases to delay. It mirrors, instantly. And if it doesn't feel instant yet, it's not because the field is slow. It's because your signal is inconsistent. So your task is not to force reality to move faster. Your task is to become so singular in your frequency, so clear in your energetic identity, that there is no alternative for the field to collapse but the one you've chosen. This is how reality shortcuts time, not by rewarding effort, but by obeying coherence. And the fastest way to reach coherence is not by thinking your way into a new frequency. It is by feeling it, fully, vividly, repeatedly, until your body believes it's real, until your breath stabilizes it, until your choices flow from it, until it becomes so embodied that the very idea of waiting feels irrelevant. Because when you stop waiting, things stop taking time. And in that moment, you no longer walk toward your future. You collapse into it. If thoughts created reality, your life would already look like your vision board. You've imagined it, repeated it, written it, seen it in your mind 1,000 times. And yet, for many, the changes remain subtle, slow, incomplete. This isn't because you're doing it wrong. It's because you've been misled about what actually collapses reality. It's not the thought. It's the frequency beneath it. The quantum field doesn't speak in words. It doesn't interpret mantras or understand affirmations. It responds only to energetic coherence, and that coherence is generated by emotion. Not just any emotion, but the one that vibrates consistently in the background of your being, whether you're thinking about your dream or not. This is the hidden mechanism behind accelerated manifestation. The field responds to your dominant state, not your conscious intention. You can script abundance every morning, but if the rest of your day is saturated with anxiety, the field will mirror anxiety. You can visualize love in meditation, but if your nervous system still expects abandonment, the field will reinforce that frequency. This is not punishment. It's precision. The quantum field is perfect in its accuracy. It reflects what you are broadcasting, not what you're requesting. And what you are broadcasting, moment to moment, is emotional. This is why transformation happens faster when you feel it first, because emotion carries the signal. It's the carrier wave that imprints your reality. And while thoughts might set the direction, it is the emotion that provides the voltage. No voltage, no signal, no collapse. So the key is not to think better, it's to feel clearer. Because the body doesn't wait for external proof. It responds instantly to internal instruction. And emotion is the most powerful instruction you can give your field. That's why a single moment of sincere gratitude can collapse more reality than weeks of mental repetition. That's why a deep breath taken in full trust can open timelines that effort could never reach. Emotion is the language of collapse. But here's the part most people miss. Emotion is not a reaction. It's a choice. It's not just something that happens after you get what you want. It's something you must generate before, not as a performance, not as a trick, but as a signal, as a declaration, as the vibrational signature of the version of you who already has what you're calling in. Because that version, the one who lives in the reality you desire, doesn't just think differently. They feel differently. Their nervous system is relaxed. Their posture is open. Their voice is steady. Their frequency is consistent. Not because their environment made it that way, but because they made a choice to align with the feeling first. And this is the secret to speed. Manifestation becomes slow when emotion is conditional. When you say, "I'll feel abundant once the money comes," or "I'll feel loved when the relationship appears," you place your signal downstream from reality. But in quantum manifestation, the signal comes first, and the collapse follows. So the question is not, "What do I want?" The question is, what emotion aligns with that reality? And am I willing to generate it now, unconditionally? This doesn't mean faking it. It means practicing emotional congruence. It means shifting your breathing, regulating your heart, moving your body with the confidence of someone who trusts the field, speaking as if it's already done, not because you're forcing belief, but because you've surrendered the doubt. And that surrender, that's not weakness. It's power, because in the absence of emotional interference, the field can finally respond. This is why people who don't know a thing about manifestation often manifest effortlessly, because they feel safe, open, expectant. Their nervous system is aligned, their field is clean. They're not trying, they're being. And being, when emotionally coherent, is the fastest form of creation. But this speed is not intensity, it's consistency. You don't have to feel joy at full volume all day long. You simply need to return to the emotion of your desired timeline more often than you return to fear. And each time you do, you reinforce the signal. You instruct your cells. You train your subconscious. You attune your vibration. And eventually, the tipping point comes. The emotion becomes the baseline, and the field responds with new form, new opportunities, new synchronicities, new physical reflections of your internal shift. And you realize, it was never about doing more. It was about feeling differently, first, faster, deeper, because emotion bypasses logic. It rewires the brain. It creates coherence between heart and mind. And coherence, not concentration, is what makes manifestation instant. So if you want speed, forget the spreadsheet of techniques. Forget the timeline. Forget the question, "How long will it take?" Ask instead, "How fully can I feel it now?" Because the moment your emotion matches the memory of the future, the field can't tell the difference. And when the field can't tell the difference, reality collapses fast. Most people treat their body like a passenger in the manifestation process, a silent observer of the mind's desires. But in truth, the body is not a passive container. It is the field's loudest voice. It is the antenna, the transmitter, and the proof of coherence, or the absence of it. And until the body believes what the mind envisions, there is no signal clear enough for the field to obey. This is why some people do everything right in their manifestation practice, the journaling, the visualizing, the gratitude lists, and still feel like nothing is shifting. Because beneath all the rituals, their nervous system is still vibrating the same old story. Their posture still reflects waiting. Their breath still echoes fear. Their voice still carries a subtle tremble of unworthiness. And the field listens, not to what you're saying, but to what you're embodying. Because the field responds faster to embodiment than to any thought. Your timeline, the version of reality you wish to experience, is not something you move toward. It is something you step into, vibrationally, by becoming the version of yourself who already lives there. And that version doesn't exist in your head. It exists in your spine, in your heartbeat, in your chemistry. It's a full-body broadcast, and when that broadcast is clean, the shift happens fast. Faster than logic, faster than strategy, faster than doubt can argue with. But embodiment is not about acting, it's not about faking it until you make it. It's about feeling it until it becomes real. Not out there, but in here, in your cells, in your tone, in the way you sit, stand, speak, move, breathe. Because the moment your body begins to behave as if the future is already here, the field begins collapsing that version into form. This is not wishful thinking. This is entrainment. In physics, when two oscillating systems interact, the one with the stronger, more stable frequency pulls the other into synchronization. This is exactly what happens when you embody your chosen timeline. You become the dominant frequency. And your external reality, which is always listening, begins to reorganize itself to match. But here's the trap. Most people are still waiting for permission. They want to feel successful, but only once the business works. They want to feel loved, but only once someone chooses them. They want to feel free, but only when the bank account is full. And so, their body remains loyal to the past. Their timeline remains anchored in absence. Their field reflects what's familiar, not what's possible. The shift happens when you decide to reverse the order. Feel it now, and let the external follow. This is not delusion. This is instruction. You are instructing the field with every signal you send. So when you choose to relax into peace before the evidence arrives, you are collapsing a reality where peace is no longer dependent on conditions. When you open your chest and breathe as if everything is working in your favor, you are signaling to the field, "This is already true for me." When you move with certainty, you collapse uncertainty. When you act from joy, you dissolve the waiting room of when. Embodiment is the end of hoping. It's the end of performance. It's the beginning of vibrational integrity, because when your behavior reflects your belief, without contradiction, the speed at which reality bends is shocking. You stop needing to chase anything. You realize the version of you who was always trying is no longer present, and in their absence, space opens for something new. That something is not found in the mind. It's found in the body. The way you wake up, the way you take up space, the way you say yes without flinching, the way you hold yourself, not with arrogance but with quiet certainty, because you are no longer manifesting the timeline. You are living it. And every second that your body remains in that state, your field stabilizes, your magnetism increases, the delay dissolves, and the gap between the inner and the outer closes with stunning speed. So here's your checkpoint. A declaration, not to the algorithm, but to yourself. Type in the comments. Speed is a state of being. Say it as a code, a reminder that what collapses reality is not your effort, your hours, or your affirmations, but the energy you choose to embody in this moment. Because this moment is the manifestation. And if you can feel it now, then it's already here. We've been conditioned to think of manifestation as a forward motion, as if we're always moving towards something out there, something that exists beyond this moment, waiting to be earned, summoned, or attracted. But in quantum reality, nothing could be further from the truth. You're not walking toward your future. Your future is collapsing into you. And if you understand this, everything changes. Because the future doesn't need your effort. It doesn't require your constant mental rehearsals. What it needs is resonance. A vibrational match so clear that the timeline you're calling in has no choice but to pull you toward itself. It becomes like a gravitational field, not one you generate, but one you align with. The future version of you who already has it all is not ahead of you in time. It is surrounding you in potential. And the moment your frequency aligns with that version, you feel it. A shift, not in the outer world, but in the inner compass of your being. You're not chasing anymore. You're being pulled. This is reverse manifesting, not because it goes backward, but because it inverts the illusion of control. It shows you that the fastest path to your future is surrender, not force. Presence, not projection. Identity, not desire. Imagine this. There is a version of you that already exists, living in the exact reality you've been trying to create. That version breathes differently, walks differently, thinks from completion, feels from peace, decides from knowing. And that version is sending out a signal, always, looking for coherence. The moment you stop broadcasting the noise of fear, scarcity, and striving, that signal becomes clear. You feel the pull, not as an idea, but as an embodied nudge, a magnetic intelligence moving you softly but unmistakably toward people, places, decisions, and synchronicities you couldn't have predicted. You're no longer creating the path, You're aligning to the pull of a timeline that's already laid out in the invisible, one that has always been waiting for you to match it. And when the pull begins, it feels both surreal and obvious. Surreal, because the logic of time and strategy begins to dissolve. Things happen without cause. Connections appear without effort. Insights land without analysis. And yet it also feels obvious, like a remembering. A sense of course this is how it works. Because deep down you've always known that reality bends to frequency, not force. But most people never feel the pull. Why? Because they never stop pushing. They are so busy trying to make the future happen that they drown out the very signal that would guide them there. They fill the silence with tactics, they clutter the field with rituals. They obsess over timelines and metrics and signs, never realizing that in doing so, they are anchoring themselves to the very version of reality they are trying to escape. You can't feel the future when you're addicted to the noise of the past. You can't be pulled into your highest timeline when your identity is still entangled with the one who's not ready. The moment you choose emotional neutrality, not excitement, not hope, but peace, the gravitational field of your future activates. Because peace is the signature of embodiment. It says to the field, I am no longer trying. And that is the most magnetic state you can offer. This is the paradox of acceleration. The faster you want it, the more still you must become. Because motion doesn't create collapse, coherence does. And coherence is a stillness that hums beneath the surface, a knowing so rooted that it doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't grasp. It simply receives the pull and responds to it with quiet authority, and yes. This will often require decisions that make no sense to the logical mind. You'll feel compelled to stop doing something that used to feel important. You'll feel an urge to move, to speak, to say yes to something you can't explain. This is not chaos. It's alignment. You're being led, not by preference but by resonance. You'll begin to notice a new rhythm. Time feels softer. Synchronicities accelerate. People show up with messages they didn't know you needed. Paths open where resistance once stood. You are no longer pushing to reach your future. You are responding to its pull. And in that response, you collapse timelines that would have taken years to navigate through strategy alone. This is the frequency of inevitability. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is subtle, precise, undeniable. And once you taste this level of alignment, you'll never again fall for the old model of trying harder. Because now you know, the moment you surrender your identity as the one who is waiting, you begin to embody the one who is being chosen by the future. Not because you deserved it, but because you matched it. And when you match the future, it comes faster than you thought possible. There's a moment that no one can predict. Not exactly. A moment that doesn't come after the 20th visualization or the 100th affirmation. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks or flashing signs. It often arrives in silence, quiet, unexpected, almost unnoticed until everything changes. This is the collapse moment, the point where the wave becomes particle, where the unseen becomes seen, where the version of you that was once only a feeling becomes the world around you. It happens faster than logic allows because it doesn't follow logic. It follows frequency. And when your frequency stabilizes long enough, purely enough, the field has no choice but to obey. Not because you've earned it, not because the stars aligned, but because you stopped contradicting what you asked for. You stopped vibrating as the one who's waiting. You became the one who remembers. This moment, when it comes, often catches people off guard. You wake up one day and realize the desire is no longer active, not because it disappeared, but because it already happened, on some level deeper than time. And now reality is simply catching up to your coherence. What once felt far away now feels obvious, natural, familiar, as if it had always been there. This is the true speed of quantum manifestation. It doesn't arrive gradually. It arrives fully formed, but only when the internal landscape is ready to hold it. And this readiness is not about doing more. It's about becoming less contradictory, less entangled in timelines of almost, less addicted to hoping, less identified with the version of you who had to fight for every breakthrough. When those distortions fall away, what remains is inevitable alignment. And alignment doesn't wait, it doesn't delay, it doesn't need permission. The moment you're coherent, the moment your body, breath, emotion, and awareness are all saying the same thing, the field collapses. Fast, sometimes instantly, often unpredictably, but always with precision. And when it does, you'll feel it. The call stops being a craving, the future stops being a goal, and the need for control disappears. Not because you've given up, but because you finally feel chosen by the moment. You've become the receiver, not the seeker. And what you were once trying to manifest becomes simply the new normal. But don't mistake this for an ending. Collapse is not the conclusion. It's the doorway. Because what collapses is not just a reality, it's an identity. And what emerges is an entirely new field of possibility, one that requires a new level of awareness, a new relationship with your own frequency. You are no longer walking a path. You are writing it in real time. And that's why integration is so vital. Because the collapse moment is powerful, but maintaining coherence after the shift is what determines whether this new timeline becomes permanent or temporary, whether it expands or disappears. To help you deepen that integration, we've created something intentional, something precise, a transmission designed to stabilize your new frequency, anchor your expanded identity, but to amplify the integration of what's already begun inside you. You're not starting a journey. You're continuing a shift that's already in motion, and if you feel the pull, follow it. Because the collapse moment doesn't wait, and neither does the version of you who's already living it.